Winter 1933. America was hungry. Not just one town, not just one family. An entire nation struggled to survive the darkest years of the Great Depression. On a lonely farm surrounded by frozen fields, an old farmer looked down at the last piece of bread he owned. It was all he had left. His pantry was empty. His crops had failed. His money was gone. If he gave away that final loaf, he might not live to see another sunrise. Then, someone knocked on his door. Standing outside was a frightened mother, a father too weak to speak, and two children whose eyes had forgotten what hope looked like. That cold winter night, one small piece of bread would change 5 lives forever. Tonight, let us travel back to the winter of 1933 and discover the remarkable story of the farmer who shared his last bread. The year was 1933. Across America, silence had settled over countless farms. The cheerful sounds of busy harvests had been replaced by empty barns, abandoned fields, and long lines of hungry people waiting outside soup kitchens. The Great Depression had touched nearly every family. Banks had failed. Factories had closed. Millions had lost their jobs. For farmers, life had become especially cruel. Prices for wheat and corn had collapsed. Many could no longer pay their debts. Some watched the land their grandparents had cultivated slip quietly into the hands of the bank. Others stayed, not because they believed things would improve, but because they simply had nowhere else to go. In the rolling countryside of Kansas lived a quiet widower named Samuel Whitaker. Samuel was 64 years old. His hands were rough from 40 years of honest work. His face carried deep lines carved by sunlight, wind, and seasons of hardship. Every morning before dawn, he still walked across his fields, even though little remained to harvest. Hope had become a habit, not a certainty. His wife, Eleanor, had passed away 5 winters earlier. Since then,
the farmhouse had grown painfully quiet. The laughter that once filled its kitchen had faded into memory. Only an old rocking chair beside the fireplace reminded him that love had once lived there. Samuel owned very little now. A weathered farmhouse, a tired horse named Charlie, a few chickens that no longer laid many eggs, one small vegetable patch struggling against the cold, and enough firewood to last only another week. Each evening, he counted his remaining food. 1 potato, a handful of dried beans, half a sack of flour, and finally, 1 small loaf of homemade bread. He cut a single slice each day, carefully measuring every hoping to stretch it just a little longer. He often whispered to himself, "Tomorrow will be kinder." Sometimes tomorrow was not kinder, but he whispered those words anyway. Because hope, he believed, cost nothing. One freezing afternoon, grey clouds gathered above the empty fields. Snow drifted slowly across the fences. The wind howled through cracks in the old wooden barn. Samuel finished feeding Charlie the last bundle of hay. He returned to the farmhouse, carrying an empty bucket. Inside, the fire burned low. The room smelled faintly of wood smoke and fresh bread. He placed the final loaf upon the kitchen table. It wasn't large. It wouldn't feed him for long. But it was enough to survive one more day. Samuel folded his hands, closed his tired eyes, and quietly thanked God for even that small blessing. Outside, the wind grew stronger. Then, from somewhere beyond the storm, came a sound that changed everything. Knock, knock, knock. Samuel slowly lifted his head. Visitors were rare, especially during winter. He rose from his chair, walked toward the front door, and reached for the handle. He had no idea that opening that door would become the most important decision of his entire life.